திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். தென்னாடுடைய சிவனே போற்றி, எந்நாட்டவர்க்கும் இறைவா போற்றி. கோணியப்பர் திருவடிகள் போற்றி போற்றி, திருஞான சம்பந்தர் திருவடிகள் போற்றி போற்றி, குருமகா சன்னிதானம் திருவடிகள் போற்றி போற்றி. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். I thought it was fitting to just remind or inform all of you about the glories of this particular temple, the Sirgari temple, and take you through some of the events surrounding the Mahakumbhashaham, as well as tell you about the Kumbhashaham itself. So, the Sirgari temple complex is called Sri Satyanadar Devasthanam, and it comprises of 3 temples. The Sri Brahmapuriswara Swami temple, which is the main temple, but it also has a temple for Umayammai called the Sri Tirunila Nayagi Ambal temple, as well as a temple for Tiruñana Sambandar, the Sri Tiruñana Sambandar temple. This Devasthanam is one of the 27 temples that belong to DHARUMAPURAM. It is noteworthy that DHARUMAPURAM owns both the temple that was the birthplace for Tiruñana Sambandar and where he received the Lord's divine grace through the Jnanapal, as well as it owns the temple where Tiruñana Sambandar got mukti or attained mukti, attained the Lord's feet, and that is Achalpuram temple. So DHARUMAPURAM owns both Sirgari temple and Achalpuram temple. Let's now go through some of the glories of Sirgari. Sirgari, or ancient Kali, was a main city in the kingdom belonging to Rajadi Raja, and it has also served as a capital city in the ancient past. Sirgari or Kari played a major part in the lives of many historical figures. One of the most important, of course, is Tiruñana Sambandar, but it also played an important part in the lives of Kochenga Nayanar, Mangyatkarasiyar, and Rajaraja Cholar, to name a few. I haven't mentioned the many others who most of us will not be familiar with. Now, Sirgari is the only temple with 72 padigams devoted to it. 72, a large number. It has 4 North Indian Puranams and 1 South Indian Puranam devoted to it, as well as a portion of the Ramayana dedicated to it. Now, I have mentioned in the past that Lord Shiva's most ancient form is his Artha Nariswarar form. Indeed, Jnana Sambandar starts off his very first padigam as soon as he received the Lord's divine grace through the Jnanapal fed to him by Umayammai as Todudeya Seviyan, describing the Lord's Artha Nariswarar form. That is, that the Lord has both male and female parts. Manikavasagar has described this very form as Tonmai Kolam in his Tiruvasaham, and we see the Lord as male and female in this temple. The Mount Tirumalai, situated in the indestructible Thonipuram. So this is the mount that is seen within the temple complex, and it is called Kailayam. And the scene we see within this mount is called the Kailaya Kachi. So as you enter the main temple, the Brahmapuriswara temple, and go around the temple, circumambulate the temple, you will come across this little mount situated just behind the main Brahmapuriswara sanctum. And this is the Kailaya Mount. So if you see, this is part of the main temple, the Brahmapuriswara temple. And as you then go circumambulate round and come round, you see this mount, and you can actually climb up this mount. And there are 2 tiers. So you have the basement or the tier, the ground level, which is the Brahmapuriswara temple. And as you come round and you go up this flight of steps and a further flight of steps, you get to the first floor, and then you can get to the topmost level by climbing a further flight of steps. Okay, so this mount was formed from the rocks from the apex of Mount Kailash. And this apex was brought to Kari as per the wish of King Kalavittu, according to legend. This mount has survived many deluges as birds carry this mount up, saving it from destruction during the many deluges. And this is recorded in the Padihams of both Samandar and Appar. So, what do you see when you reach the first level of the mountain or the little mount, right? As I said, you see the Kailaya Kachi, and this is exactly what you see. This is the Kailaya Kachi. You see Siva Peruman and his consort as Periya Nayakar and Periya Nachiyar. They're really huge. And behind them, fanning them, are Tirumal and Brahma with their consorts, Tirumahal and Kalaimahal. In front of the 2 main deities, Periya Nayakar and Periya Nachiyar, you have the Utsava Murtis, or the deities representing them, that get taken out of this sanctum during Tiruviras or festivals. So this statue or of deities represent Periya Nayakar and Periya Nachiyar. This is Tirunjana Samandar, and this is Umayamai, and this Ammai represents the Ammai that fed divine milk or Jnanapal to Tirunjana Samandar. So during the Tirumulaipal festival, or the festival that commemorates the incident when or event when Tirunjana Samandar was fed Jnanapal, during that festival, it is these statues or idols that are taken out. So here you have seen the form of Peruman and Perumati as Amme Appar, right? And this is the form the Lord takes to impart divine wisdom or Sivanyanam to souls. As I said, standing behind them, fanning them, are Tirumal and Tirumahal and Brahma and Kalaimahal. And it is looking at Amme Appar here that inspired Manika Vasagar to sing Ammiye Appa Uppila Maniye in one of his Tiruvasagam verses. Samandar himself, in his second Padiham, soon after singing Todudaya Seviyan and entering the main temple. Remember, he sings Todudaya Seviyan at the banks of the water tank or the Titham, the Brahma Titham, where he received the Jnanapal. And he sings Todudaya Seviyan to identifying the Lord and his consort as the ones who have come down and given him his jnanam and the ability to sing, right? So he points out the Lord and his consort to his father by the banks of the water tank, describing them or describing the Lord and his attributes in the Todudaya Seviyan Padiham. He then enters the temple, the main temple, and goes up the mountain to worship Amme Appar, as it is this Amme Appar who came as Guru to give him Sivanyanam. So when he stands in front of them, seeing that Kailaya Kachi is when he sings the Padiham or his second Padiham, that and every verse of this Padiham ends with the words Umayod Irandani, Umayod Irandani, Umayod Irandani. And because the Lord is here with his consort Uma, Sirgari temple is also known as Umapati Puram. Okay. So the Lord is found in his Guru form in this temple. After complete dissolution, the Lord and his consort, using Suttamaye as their boat and the Pranavam as their seat. So Suttamaye as their boat and the Pranavam as their seat, appear in the form of the superior mandaram Mavasiye. And while the Lord imparts divine knowledge or Sivanyana Bodham to Umayamme, she in turn imparts these agamic teachings to souls. Thus, the Lord and his consort take on the form of Guru here, Periya Nayagar and Periya Nachiyar. Take on the form of Guru. And thus they appear as Guru to Tirunjana Sambandar. Aludaya Pillayar, another name for Tirunjana Sambandar, when he was standing at the edge of the Brahma Titham at Sirgari, points to the top of this very mount that we've been talking about, crying out, Amme Appa, Umayamme, at the request of the Lord, then feeds the little boy from a golden vessel, Tangakinnam, containing her divine milk mixed with divine wisdom, Sivanyanam. And on receiving this Sivanyanam, this little boy becomes Tirunjana Sambandar. A reminder to all of you that to date we do not know what the birth name of this little boy was. Sekirat too has not mentioned his birth name or the name that the parents gave him at birth, even though Sekirat does mention the naming ceremony. Okay, so Sambandar himself records this event in one of his Padihams, saying, Podayar pur kinnathu adisil poladena tadayar munivura tanene aandavan. So that pur kinnathu adisil, he received divine milk rice that was in a golden vessel, he says. This event is commemorated annually, enacted during the Tirumulaipal festival at Sirgari. During Guru Jnana Sambandha's Guru Pusai at Dharumai Adhinam, which incidentally is happening at the moment, milk rice is served from a clay pot shaped in the form of a golden bowl as Guru Prasadam to devotees. And this is another way that this particular incident is commemorated. Now, this form of Ammayappar was always etched on Jnanasambandha's mind, as reflected in his Padigams, as he often refers to this particular form of the Lord. At Tiruvizimiralai, at Jnanasambandha's request, the Lord and his consort appear in that very same form as they are in the mount. And they appear in that very same form at the Gobura Vimanam of Tiruvizimiralai temple, at the Gobura Vimanam or the temple tower. And Jnanasambandha then goes on to describe this form. And how do you know that he's describing the same form that he sees or he saw in Sirgari? Well, because in this particular Padigam in Tiruvizimiralai, he describes the form he sees as the Lord without a deer in his hand, the very form that is in Sirgari. Because in the Kailaya Kachi, Periyanayagar does not carry a deer in his hand, nor does he carry the maru. So without the man maru in his hand. The maru is the battle axe. And in the form seen in the Kailaya Kachi in Sirgari, the Lord is without the deer and the battle axe in his hands. And it is this form that is taken out during the Tirumulaipal festival, that Utsavamurti is in this form, without the man Mary in his hands. Now we come to another very, very important deity in this temple complex, Sattenadar, who resides at the very apex of the Tonipura Vimanam and is found in a standing position. This form of Lord Shiva is described as the Sangamam form, a form that always occupies devotees' minds. There are a couple of Purana stories attached to this form, the Sattenadar form of the Lord. The first, Thirumal as Narasimham faints after killing Iranyan. Thirumagal prays to Sivaperuman to restore Thirumal's form. Sivaperuman goes on to remove Narasimham's skin, placing it over his own shoulders, and restores Thirumal's old form. So this is the Puranic story of how Sattenadar comes to be clad in Thirumal's skin. The second Puranic story is as follows. After taking Vamana Avadaram, Thirumal is stuck in that form and he prays to Sivaperuman to regain his old form. Sivaperuman breaks Thirumal's spine using the spine as his own walking stick or Tandayudam. Thus, Sattenadar is also called Tandayudapani, and this story thus describes how Sattenadar comes to be holding a Dandayudam in his hands. So this is a form of Satyanadar. This is actually the Utsava Murti that gets taken out. It is not the form that is found at the apex of the temple. I will show you that in a little while, right? So here you have Satyanadar with his Sin Muttirai and holding the Dandayudam and in an upright standing position. This is a picture taken of carvings at the top of the temple itself. And as you can see, it's freshly painted, just restored, right? And this is Satyanadar. This picture depicts Satyanadar. And you see the blue coat there, which is actually Thirumal's skin, and the Dandayudam, which is Thirumal's spine. And here you have Thirumal praying to Satyanadar. So, what is the philosophy behind the Satyanadar Murtam? Well, the removal of Thirumal's body represents the removal of the 5 kales. You know, we have spoken about the Panja Kalehal. And I won't go through that in detail now. But basically, it is removal of the last of Maya that is attached to souls, that the Lord attaches to souls in order to slowly cause them to develop spiritual maturity, facilitate the spiritual maturation of souls, right? So here, the removal of Thirumal's body represents the removal of these Panjakales, so removal of the remnants of Maya. The Lord then shrinks this Maya and uses it as his own apparel. This signifies removal of further births from that soul. So freeing that particular soul from the cycle of rebirths. The snake that you find around Satyanadar represents the Kundalini, and the Dandayudam represents the 6 Adharams we find in our bodies, starting from the Mooladhara onwards. Satyanadar is found facing south with the Sin Muttirai. This is the Sin Muttirai and represents Jnanam. So this is actually a Jnana Vadivu of Sivaperuman, one of his Jnana Vadivus, right? And how do we know that? Because he is showing the Sin Muttirai. The 10th Guru Mahasanidhanam of Dharumayadinam has described the special attributes of Satyanadar in one of his exemplary works called Abattu Tharanar Malai. So, Sirgari is really a temple that reflects Guru Linga Sangamam. Guru, because he's found as Periyanayagar or Thoniyappar and Periyanachiyar within the mount at the first level of the mount. Lingam, Brahmapuriswarar in the main sanctum at the ground level of the temple, and as Sangamam, Satyanadar found right at the top of the mount or the 3rd level of the 2nd level of the temple. So you have the ground level, the 1st level, and the 2nd level. Guru Linga Sangamam forms of the Lord found in this temple. Another interesting feature to note about this temple complex is that the temple structure is in the form of Somaskandar. Somaskandar is one of the Utsava Murtis where you have Siva Peruman on one side, Umayamme on the other side, and Muruga Peruman sitting in between them. And this is how the temple structure is laid out in this temple complex. So here I've got an aerial view of Sirgari temple, and here you have the main sanctum, the Brahmapuriswara temple, right? Then on the other side, you have the temple for Tirunila Nayahi, for Umayamme, and in between these, you find the temple for Tirunyana Sambandar, right? So you have Sivaperuman on one side, Umayamme on the other side, with Tirunyana Sambandar in the middle, just like a Somaskandar Muhurtam, right? So just quickly running through you're running through this aerial view. You have 3 of the 4 Raja Gobrams shown here. You have, so as you enter this Raja Gobram, which is on the east side, the Kirakku Vasal, you then can then proceed to enter the main temple. But if you do not do that, you can go walking like this, past the Brahmatitham, and this is where Jnana Sambandar received the divine milk, and it's from this position that he points to the Vimanam where he saw Ammayapar, right? And from where Ammai descends to feed him that divine milk or milk rice. And then as you walk further down this way, you can then approach the Tirunila Nayahi temple and enter that temple, and that's the temple complex for Tirunila Nayahi. And then you can make your way to the Tirunyana Sambandar temple. And if you see, the Tirunyana Sambandar temple has a very large complex, right? This is that temple. There's a very large complex. Now, you have barren land here. In those days, of course, you had a lot of trees, and now it's all been cleared up. And it's at this very spot where the recent discovery of the buried idols and copper plates with Tevara inscriptions were found, right? It all this foliage and trees have been cleared, and this is where the Yagasala was built for the purpose of the Mahakumbhavishaham. Okay. Sirgari, another glory is that it is a sacred place that bestows guru status. And the best example of this is Tirunyana Sambandar himself, who is hailed as the foremost of Sivanadiyas, Mudal Samaya Kuravar. In fact, Sekirar hails him as Tava Mudalvan. He is the head of those performing Tavam to the Lord. And Nambi also gives him prime position as he devotes the first 3 Tirumurais to Tirunyana Sambandar's Padigams. Sivaperuman himself identifies Tirunyana Sambandar as the foremost guru to us. How? By bestowing him with all the emblems fitting a guru: the palanquin, the umbrella, and canopy. We know that it is Tirunyana Sambandar's words that were a seed for the birth of Meighandar, the foremost of the Santana Kuravas. There are historical records that describe mutts called Tirunana Sambandar Mutt and Tiruneri Maligai that were set up many, many years ago. Another very important fact is that the founder of Dharumapura Adheenam, Guru Gnanasambandar, was a disciple of a lineage of seers that started from Kari Arul Namachivaya, who himself was born in Sirgari. So just to quickly go through this lineage, you have Kari Arul Namachivaya, born in Sirgari, and his seeder or disciple was Kari Gangai Kanda Meihandar, and his disciple was Kari Sitrambala Nadihal, whose disciple in turn was Kamale Jnana Prahasar, who is the one who then gave TK to Guru Gnanasambandar, the founder of Dharumapura Adheenam. So that is why Sirgari is a very, very, very important temple for the Mahasannidhanams of Dharumapura Adheenam. Sirgari is not only a seat for Saiva Gurus, but it is, or Siddhanta Gurus, but it is also a seat for Vaidhiha Gurus. And thus it is called Siva Saryapuram or Jivan Muktipuram by these Vaidhiha Gurus. A quick run through some of the other glories of Sirgari. Lord Vinayagar was born as a result of Lord Indra's prayers to Lord Shiva at Brahmapuram. Lord Murugan was born as a result of the Devas' prayers to Lord Shiva at Brahmapuram. Sirgari has 12 popular names: Brahmapuram, Venupuram, Puhali, Venguru, Puravil, Tirutonipuram, Pundarai, Sirapuram, Puravam, Sanvai Nahar, Kari, Kochevayam, and Karumalam. Just uttering these names serve to rid us of our Vinay. And that is why Gnanasambandar has sung many padigams incorporating these names, so that when we sing these padigams, we have to chant these 12 names of Sirgari over and over again. Sirgari has many, many other names, and of note are the names Thiru Eru Pootu Irukei Padi and Malai Matru Padi. Why? Because these names were given to Sirgari after the respective padigams sung by Tirunyanasambandar, the Thiru Eru Pootu Irukei Padiham and the Malai Matru Padiham. Of note is the fact that this temple complex contains 12 water tanks or Tirthangal. Other glories, it has Atta Bhairavar in this temple complex. Veda Vyasa, who compiled the Vedams and wrote 18 Puranams and Idihasams, was born in Kari. Saint Ahatyar resided in a place close to Kari. And Tolkapir, who wrote the most ancient and important book on Tamil grammar, was also born in Kari. Tirumurais document the worship of those following the Sarye, Kiriye, Yogam and Jnanam paths residing in Kari. There was another Nayanar called Kari Gananatha Nayanar who established a mutt in Kari, tutoring those in the Sarye path. Also in residence in Kari in the past were those who were proficient in Attamasiddhi, those who were highly educated in the Vedas, those who are well versed in and immersed in spreading music, as well as those spiritually mature jnanis who had reached the stage of Nittai Kududal. So very, very prominent souls residing in Kari. Now we come to the most recent glory of Sirgari that has occurred in our lifetime. Aren't we very blessed? We have just completed the chanting of the Thiru Ezhu Koottru Irukkai Padiham 10 million times within 101 days. And the completion was done by the date of the Maha Kumbhavishaham. In fact, we have surpassed the 10 million times that was set out by Mahasanidhanam. And it is believed that due to the power of reciting this particular Padiham, and due to Guru Mahasanidhanam's very, very strong devotion to the Lord, his Saiva Tiram, the Lord has given us this gift, showing up these 23 or 22 idols of deities, as well as hundreds of copper plates inscribed with Thevarams. So these are pictures taken from the scene on 16th of April 2023. You have our Guru Mahasanidhanam there monitoring what was happening. Right? There are 47 stone inscriptions found to date, all of them describing the history of Sirgari. Of note I'm highlighting a few of note. The first statue of Tirunjana Sambandar, placed in the Tirunjana Sambandar temple, was commissioned by a senior kitchen maid of 3rd Kulothungan. Many of Tirunjana Sambandar's Thevarams were written and kept within the temple premises. It is also stated that a temple Oduvar was appointed in those days to keep a close eye on these Thevarams, worship them, and maintain and protect the Thevaram inscribed palm leaves, rewriting these Thevarams or new palm leaves once the old ones were damaged. So you can see how carefully Tirunjana Sambandar's Thevarams were looked after, how dearly cherished they were. Just to mention the different consecration ceremonies in recent history, in 1952, the consecration ceremony was performed by the 25th Guru Mahasanidhanam. Then in 1991, it was performed by the 26th Guru Mahasanidhanam, who also partook in the Guru Linga Sangamam Pada Yatire from Dharmayadinam to Sirgari temple at that time. This is the foot procession, the Pada Yatire. And 32 years later, on the 24th of May, 2023, the 27th Guru Mahasanidhanam oversaw the most recent Maha Kumbhavishaham, and he too took part in the Guru Linga Sangamam Pada Yatire from Dharmayadinam to Sirgari, arriving in Sirgari a few days before, at least more than a week before the Kumbhavishaham itself. Now I'm just going to show you some pictures about events leading up to the consecration ceremony on the 24th of May, 2023. So this is a picture of the Padayatra taken by Mahasanidhanam, right? So the foot procession as they proceed from Dharmayadinam to Sirgari. This is one of the newly renovated 4 Rajagoburams. And see how beautifully it has been restored. This was taken from the Kiழக்கு Vasil, or from the east Rajagopuram, east side Rajagopuram. And I've honed in on some of the sculptures found on the Rajagopuram. And here you can see a sculpture of Thoniyappar and his consort. Then you can see sculpture of Thiruñana Sambandar with his talam or cymbals, and you have a sculpture of Thiruñana Sambandar in his palanquin being carried by his devotees, and you have a sculpture of Sivaperuman and his consort on their white bull as Rishabharuder. As you enter that Rajagopuram, the east side Rajagopuram, and then enter the temple itself, you will see this decoration in anticipation of the Mahakumbhavishaham. You can see how clean the temple complex is. And this is the scene that greets you at 6:30 or 7 in the morning, when all the devotees crowd round in this passage just leading off the main corridor here. And what are they waiting for? They are waiting to see the Sokanada Pusai being performed by Guru Mahasanidhanam. And here you have some of the Kattalai Swamigal, Ramburan Swamigal, praying to and worshipping Sokanadar. Here are scenes of Guru Mahasanidhanam performing the Sokanada Pusai in Sirgari. Here performing Abhishekam to that very Sivalingam that was found by the founder of Dharumayadinam, Thiruñana Sambandar. And here, after Alangaram, Deeparadhane, here you have Mahasanidhanam seated after completing the Abhishekam and Aradhane. And daily after the Sokanada Pusai, you have lined up these animals: an elephant, a horse, a cow with its calf, and a camel. And you have Guru Mahasanidhanam feeding these animals after the Sokanada Pusai. How blessed are these souls that dwell within these bodies of these animals to be fed directly by Guru Mahasanidhanam himself. This is one of the events that took place before the Mahakumbhavishaham, the opening of the western door after 30 years. Yes, it was closed for 30 years, not in use. And this is the door that leads to that barren land where the idols and copper plates were discovered or dug out, excavated, right? So this is the procession going around the temple. So this procession after the Sukhanatha Pusai on the 18th of May 2023 leaves the temple through the eastern Rajagopuram and then circumambulates the temple, reaching the western Rajagopuram, and the door there is opened after 30 years with Mahasannidhanam leading the way, and not only people, but you have the animals, including the elephant, the horse, the cow and its calf, and the camel being taken through this door that had been closed for 30 years. These are pictures of the newly renovated Thiruñana Sambandar temple. This is the entrance of the temple, as I've described before. This is the wall to the Tirunilanayagi temple, and just to its right is situated the Thiruñana Sambandar temple. Okay. And these are pictures of the sculptures, close-up pictures of the sculptures that you see on the top here. You have the scene depicting Thiruñana Sambandar pointing out the Lord and his consort who appeared to him at the temple Gobra Vimanam. And then you also have a sculpture depicting the scene where Thiruñana Sambandar meets Tirunilakanda Yarpanar and his wife, and it's his Tirunilakanda Yarpanar who then follows him wherever he goes and sets his padihams to tune, right, or pan. And then you have this sculpture which depicts the meeting of Thiruñana Sambandar and Appar, the first meeting at Sirgari itself. These are pictures showing what the Thiruñana Sambandar temple was like before the renovation works carried out for this Kumbhasham. You can see it was in a bit of a rundown state. After all, no major works had been carried out for 32 years. So here you have that little Vimanam there, and a statue of Thiruñana Sambandar at the situated at the Vimanam. You have the temple complex itself. You can see how rundown it was. And this is these are pictures showing what the temple complex looks like now, the renovated temple complex. Totally cleaned up, and a lot of extensive works carried out to make it look new and sparkling, right? So you can see new roof being laid down and the Vimanam being painted, and you can see how beautifully Thiruñana Sambandar has been restored. Right. Soon after the western gate was opened, Guru Mahasannidhanam on the 18th of May 2023 inaugurated the Tirumurai Muttrodhal in the Thiruñana Sambandar temple itself. So here you have his inauguration ceremony, and this is the book that was specially commissioned to be printed for this Tirumurai Muttrodhal, where you have all 12 Tirumurais, the 12 Tirumuraiகள், all compiled into one book, just the Tirumuraiகள் itself without the meanings, right? So you have this book which was handed out by Guru Mahasannidhanam to the various devotees who attended the betrothal. This is the scene that one encountered on a daily basis in the run-up, in the last week of the run-up to the Mahakumbhabhishekam, as you entered the Tirunyanasambandar temple. This is the main sanctum for Tirunyanasambandar in the temple. It's the only sanctum in that temple, and you can see there's a Tirunyanasambandar statue in the main sanctum, and you have a Sivalingam in front of him. And in front of this sanctum was placed the Tirumurai Koyil, right? You have the older Tirumurai books at the back, but also placed within this Tirumurai Koyil or Temple of Tirumurais is the new book that was recently published to commemorate this event. And you would have one of the Oduvar Murtis leading the betrothal, and there were hundreds of devotees who turned up to partake in this betrothal, not only from the different Tamil Nadu cities or villages, but also from Singapore, Malaysia, etc. So there were many devotees assembled on a daily basis to partake in this betrothal. And what did we do? We chanted the first three Tirumurais in its entirety. Everyone who was present chanted these three Tirumurais in their entirety, and the remaining 9 Tirumurais were divided amongst the various devotees who chanted sections of those Tirumurais, and thus all 12 Tirumurais were chanted in its during the run-up to the Mahakumbhabhishekam, and the completion of this was on the 23rd of May, the night before the Mahakumbhabhishekam. Now, this temple was bustling with activity in that week during the run-up to the Kumbhabhishekam, as we not only had betrothals, but we also had many distinguished Saivite speakers come and talk on various topics associated with Saivism and Siddhantam. And this is one such well-known speaker talking on the topic of Siddhantam. And as you can see, these speakers would sit in front of the Tirumurai Koyil. This is a picture of Mahasannidhanam applying the medicinal herbs or marundu on the statue or over the statue of Tirunyanasambandar in the main sanctum of the Tirunyanasambandar temple. Right. So you have a close-up view of him applying the marundu the day before the Mahakumbhabhishekam. And soon after that, there was an Abhishekam for Tirunyanasambandar, followed by Alangaram or decoration. And we are fortunate to be able to get a picture of Tirunyanasambandar in his main sanctum in the temple. As of course, once the Kumbhabhishekam is complete, photographs are not allowed. I want to now take you through some of the scenes from the temple grounds. So this is what greeted you in the evenings, you have figures of the Lord and of Guru Mahasannidhanam, of Lord Vinayaga performing Abhishek to the Sivalingam, dotted around the whole temple complex. And here you have the entrance to the Yagasale, and they have erected a sculpture enacting Kailai Malai or Mount Kailash with the Lord and his consort at the top, a sculpture of Guru Mahasannidhanam there, and you have this strip of blue representing the river Ganga. This is the newly restored Brahmatitham with the famous arch commemorating the place where Thiruñana Sambandar received Jnanapal from Umayyammai, and this is the Gopuram temple tower for the Tirunila Nayagi temple. These are scenes from the Kumbhasham itself, right? This is the Tonipura Gopuram, right? And this is the Kalasam at the top of that Gopuram. And here you have the Kalasams or the vessels being taken up in procession to reach that top Gopuram. This is what the Utsava Murti for Thiruñana Sambandar, the sanctum housing the Utsava Murti for Thiruñana Sambandar was like before extensive renovation works, right? This Utsava Murti is found just next to the main sanctum, the main Brahma Puriswara sanctum. So if you go towards the right, you will have the Brahma Puriswara sanctum, and next to it is the Utsava Murti sanctum, right, for Thiruñana Sambandar, and it is this Murti that is taken out. This is a different, this is found within the main temple, the Brahma Puriswara temple. Previously, we saw the statue of Thiruñana Sambandar in the Thiruñana Sambandar temple. So if you can see, the old structure of this temple was made up of stone and had paintings depicting Thiruñana Sambandar's life in the walls, painted onto the walls surrounding the Utsava Murti, in the walls housing the Utsava Murti. And it has undergone a complete revamp where now you no longer have a cemented structure, but you have a karkoil, a granite stone temple built specially for Thiruñana Sambandar. And instead of having paintings, you have sculptures which have been carved onto this granite stone. And these sculptures depict the life of Thiruñana Sambandar. And right in the middle, you have Utsava Murti. And this is a picture of the Utsava Murti taken the day after the Mahakumbhasham. So these are pictures of some of the sculptures that you find in the walls that enclose the Utsava Murti. So you have a sculpture of Thiruñana Sambandar here. Here you have the scenes that depict him receiving Jnanapal from Umayyammai, and the scene that He points out Toniapar and Umayammai to his father, who comes to strike him when he notices that the child has milk rice at his lips. And this is that scene when he actually sings Todureya Seviyan. This is a scene depicting the meeting of both ஞானசம்பந்தர் and Appar at Sirgari. And this is a scene when ஞானசம்பந்தர் sings Mandira Mavadu Neeru, the padiham that cures the Mangakarasi's husband, the Pandya king, of his Veppanoi. With that, I come to the end of this presentation. This is a portrait reflecting the discovery of the various idols and copper plates with Tevara inscriptions. And as I said before, it is strongly believed that these were given to us by the Lord during this period, solely due to our Guru Mahasannidhanam's Saivatiram, or the power of his devotion to the Lord. Here at the entrance of the Tirunyanasambandha temple is a picture depicting the chariot formation that is drawn when you write out the Oruruvayina Padiham. Tirunyanasambandar Tiruvadigal Potri Potri.